Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, New Year's Day, we look back 26 years at the Wheel Deal Flywheelers 1999. In Southern Gardening, keep that poinsettia going into the new year with a little DIY from Eddie Smith. And we're back to the future. Flash forward, Flywheelers this millennium. And in another look back, Mr. George Berry, who carved an amazing reputation. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week, brought to you by Mississippi State University Extension. Happy New Year. A popular story for you, so we bring it back for an encore. It's well known that many of our viewers often get nostalgic about the good old days. Well, back in 1999, 26 years ago, Farm Week went to Houston, Mississippi for the Flywheelers Festival. What is that, you ask? Well, it's the Wheel Deal. Here's that story, and we pick up with the original intro on June 3rd, 1999 by former Farm Week anchor Artis Ford.
Well, you hear a lot of talk these days about the end of the century approaching as well as the millennium. Well, now it's an understatement to say that agriculture has changed in that time. There's a group in Mississippi that's working to make sure that the relics of our agricultural and rural past will be around in the next century. Members of the Mississippi Valley Flywheelers Association collect, restore, and exhibit antique farm equipment. They gather in Houston in April and September of each year to let future generations know what the good old days were really like. Farm Week visited the Flywheelers at their April show.
To see them is impressive, but to truly experience them, you have to hear them. They're called flywheel engines, the name coming from the heavy flywheels that make them run. In the early part of the 20th century, they helped to modernize farms and businesses as American agriculture moved from manpower and animal power to mechanical might.
A lot of the old fellers, they get a kick out of it. They say, well, man, my dad had one of these, and I learned how to plow on one of those, and it just goes on, and that's what we're in it for.
I guess it's like collecting matchbooks or Barbie dolls or whatever you happen to collect. You can't get enough of them once you get started.
In addition to flywheel engines, the Mississippi Valley Flywheelers Association devotes itself to the preservation of other historic agricultural equipment like tractors and farm implements. The association holds flywheel festivals on the last weekends of April and September in Houston, Mississippi. The events give the association's members a chance to pass on the history they've learned to children and adults. The festivals attract up to 25,000 visitors and exhibitors from 10 to 15 states. Besides the antique farm equipment, there's also an arts and crafts fair and a play area for children. In spite of their size and weight, the gasoline and kerosene-fueled engines develop a small amount of power by today's standards. For example, this 1917 Hercules 600-pound engine generates 1.5 horsepower. The metal flywheels provide the momentum to keep the engine in motion between the times the single-cylinder fires.
Every engine has a flywheel of some kind. You may not necessarily see it, which you don't now in cars and trucks and so forth, but it's still there.
In spite of their low horsepower, the flywheel engines were serious equipment for farms and rural businesses. Their heyday was from the late 1800s into the 1930s, when large areas of the United States did not have electricity. The engines could generate electricity, pump water, grind corn, and power anything which could be turned by a drive belt.
Well, they had one engine that pulled many machines. They carried the engine from one machine to the other. Now you have all machines, each one has an engine on.
Bobby McGowan remembers when a flywheel engine powered his uncle's machine shop in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. The oldest engine in McGowan's 17-strong collection is a 3-horsepower model built in 1909.
It will surprise you how these old folks built these engines with a hammer and a chisel and maybe a file. They didn't have the modern machinery to build it like we did.
This 1916 Galloway is the oldest engine in Ron Diffenderfer's collection. The television engineer caught the old iron bug 18 years ago.
They're just a whole lot of fun to play with. They're a lot of work to get them rebuilt, because usually they're pretty old. They're 50, 60, sometimes 80 years old. So, but I just get some kind of fascination out of that simple machinery operating.
They didn't have electric back in those days on the rural areas and even in the towns. So they'd have a gasoline engine on the wash machine, and they'd have a big long extension pipe which they'd run outside. They'd run the engine inside, washing the clothes, and the exhaust would go outside.
Francis Werner says if you wanted a Maytag brand clothes washer in those days, it came with a 2-cycle engine. With attachments, you could do more with it than clean clothes.
Maytag was very large in the manufacturing business. They made a wash machine, and it didn't only wash clothes. The Maytag ground corn, it ground meat, it washed clothes. It had all sorts of attachments that went with it.
The owners and restorers of the antique tractors on display love their equipment as much as the Flywheelers. It may be romantic to long for the good old days, but one has to remember farming was just as difficult a business when these tractors were new as it is now. They have a beauty, however, that can't help but evoke pleasant memories for those who remember when these machines were a part of everyday life. They proved to be the inspiration for 18-year-old Jason Pickens of Houston, Mississippi, to restore this farmall tractor. It belonged originally to his grandfather, Jack.
It's a year 56 model. It's an LP gas, 300 farmall. It was up on our old cotton picker, but we took it out and changed the gears up on it so it can run forward instead of reverse. And I wanted to restore it because a lot of other people restored theirs, and I want to bring mine out here to show it off too, like everybody else.
There's an antique tractor pull on Saturdays as collectors pit their machines against the weight sled. It's not important who wins, it's the camaraderie that matters.
We come all the way from east of St. Louis, Missouri, which is in Belleville, Illinois, to this show because we love the people down here. The hospitality is fantastic, and you have a good crowd of people coming through.
It's a real close-knit group. You know, these people care about one another and enjoy being around one another. And that's one of the important things with our hobby, is it's truly a social event at one of these shows for people who exhibit.
Believe it or not, the Flywheelers still exist, and they're still putting on 2 festivals a year. Zach was in Houston, Mississippi himself not long ago to see what that festival is like now, and he'll have that story for you shortly.
So here we are now, New Year's Day, and you may still have a few of these hanging around after Christmas, and maybe you'd like to keep them for a while. If so, this story's for you. Here's Eddie Smith with all the DIY you need to keep this baby looking good for a long time.
Poinsettias are popular holiday plants that are known for their colorful bracts that surround the small yellow flowers in the center. Let me share with you some tips on how to care for them after the holiday season. Start by placing your poinsettia in a location with bright, indirect light, as direct sunlight can cause the bracts to fade or dry out. They thrive in temperatures between 65 to 70 degrees during the day and slightly cooler at night, around 60 to 65 degrees. Water your poinsettia when the top 1 to 2 inches of soil feels dry to the touch, but be careful not to overwater, as this can lead to root rot. Ensure the pot has proper drainage and water evenly around the base of the plant. Poinsettias also prefer a humid environment, so consider misting the air around the plant if the air is dry. After the holiday season, You can fertilize your poinsettia with a balanced water-soluble fertilizer diluted to half strength every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. But avoid fertilizing while the plant is in bloom. Once the blooming season is over, trim the plant back to about 4 to 6 inches from the soil to encourage new growth and maintain its shape. You can also prune it throughout the growing season to control its size. To encourage your poinsettia to bloom again the following year, it requires a special light cycle. Starting in early October, give the plant 12 to 14 hours of complete darkness each night for about 6 weeks, while ensuring it receives bright light during the day. By providing the right care, poinsettias can be enjoyed well beyond the holiday season and bloom again the following year. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a break right here, but coming up on our Farm Week feature as we begin another new year, a trip back in time. We'll bring you a Farm Week feature first produced more than 25 years ago. You'll meet Mr. George Berry, a woodcarver extraordinaire. Mr. Berry is gone now, but back then his carvings brought joy to the hearts of many, and he did it all the old-fashioned way with a pocket knife. That's coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Another encore for you. Earlier you met the Mississippi Valley Flywheelers in 1999. Well, we decided to follow up all these years later and see what they're up to. And wouldn't you know it, they're still around. So we traveled back to the future for another visit. If you're a fan of old school technology, you'd feel right at home at the biannual Flywheel Festival in Houston, Mississippi. The Mississippi Valley Flywheelers have been showing off their collections for over 40 years. Farm Week's been here before, but over the years, the show's focus has changed from just flywheel engines to a celebration of all things vintage, and they're happy for you to come and see for yourself. Mr. Harry Collins is the current president of the organization.
This is our 43rd year. to have the Flywheel Festival. This is our fall show. We have 2 shows, one in the spring, the last full weekend in April, and then in September, it's the last full weekend in September. And this will be our 43rd year. They started, I believe it was in Grenada, and after a few years, the mayor of Houston and another gentleman moved it to Houston, and it's been here ever since. We have a big time. It started out basically as an engine show. The single miss engines that they use to pump the water and do different things. That's what we started out with. We have a large engine too that we crank in the spring. And but it's just brings back old memories of getting to talk about how you did the older people, and then the young people sort of need to see some of this to see how everything was manual. It was hands-on back in the 20s and 30s and even up into the 40s. But it's sort of progressed into a tractor show now, but they still have a few engines left.
Festivals like this don't stick around easily, and there's serious coordination involved. It takes community support to make it happen. Kirby Dindy's the vice chair of the Chickasaw Development Foundation, and they're the organization responsible for ensuring the Flywheel Festival keeps going strong.
The Chickasaw Development Foundation is the organizational side of the Flywheel Festival. We are proud to help present the 43rd Fall Flywheel Festival. The City of Houston, the Pilot Club, the Chickasaw Heritage Museum, and of course our foundation, along with the Flywheelers, the most important part, all come together to organize. And our job is to make sure there's meetings, there's publications, there's plenty of publicity out there, and just really to help get the word out and make sure we're all talking to each other to make sure the flow goes well. The main part of the festival is, of course, the tractor exhibits and the engines, but the CDF's part is just to make sure everyone knows where to be, when to be here, and how to get here. I've learned a lot over the past few years. I've learned to drive a tractor. I have shot an anvil, a cannon, and toured the museum many times, and I will say I now know what a flywheel is, and I'm super excited about living here my whole life and being involved in this group. They're a dedicated group, and they have a lot of fun. I guess my favorite part is just watching everybody come together as a community, watching the kids come over after school, just really enjoying themselves, and the food is really good as well.
It's a natural progression for a festival like this to widen its focus. In doing so, has attracted younger enthusiasts curious about the history and lifestyles of past generations. An example of that is Christian Bryant, who took up blacksmithing as a way to express his creative energy and honor one of the oldest trades.
Well, I just love history to start off, and the anvil that I use, but this is not my main anvil, I use my great-great-grandfather's anvil. And it had always sat in the old family barn, and I'd always looked at it. And of course, I watched Forged in Fire. I said, that's pretty cool. And I saw a certain guy on there who had a homemade forge, and I said, if he can do this, I can do it. So I just started playing around, and I figured out this is actually something I really enjoy. I could get into this. And at the time, I was leaving skateboarding, so I needed something to lean into to be creative, and I found blacksmithing. I haven't been forging but for the past three years, but I've been coming to this festival since 2014. There are flywheels, and then there are people who make ice cream the old-timey way. There are people that have, honey, and it's becoming about people hand-making things the old way, as well as preserving history.
If you decide to visit this festival next time it comes around, you're sure to see something you never knew existed, along with folks who not only are excited to see you there, but welcome you with open arms and invite you into their passion, the preservation of the past.
I like the old stuff. I like old things. I enjoy that. I enjoy preserving them and showing them around and, letting people see them. And it's just amazing. All walks of life, all different types of people walking and visiting with one another, and people that hadn't seen each other, for years and years meet up during the Flywheel Festival, and just seeing the stuff, the items that are there and talking about them. It's not really just one thing. It's just amazing to me. I think it's the people and the Houston. This is just down home Mississippi, America, right here. It's the way it used to be. Just good times. But it's hometown.
All reminder, the next festival begins sometime in April 2026. If you want to keep up with the Flywheelers, head to Facebook and just search for Mississippi Valley Flywheelers.
In 2000, Farm Week's Brian Utley, still on staff here, visited with a man in Rankin County, Mississippi, known for his wood carvings. George Berry passed away in 2014, but his work was well known. Here's that story again with an intro by former Farm Week anchor Leighton Spann.
There are many different methods people use in order to relax. For some, it may be reading a book or going on a long walk. A man from Rankin County has a special method he uses. It's wood carving. George Berry has been relaxing now for more than 50 years, carving out animals that are commonly seen in Mississippi. And he does it all with a pocket knife. Farm Week's Brian Utley tells us more.
Take a drive across Mississippi and you're likely to come across some of the animals and wildlife that are central to the state. Stop in at George Berry's workshop in Richland and you'll see some wooden replicas of these creatures that are almost lifelike. Berry learned the trade from his father at the early age of 7. Wood carving was used as a way to relax and pass the time.
I used to watch my dad after working all day, stand at the end of the row after he was plowing or whatever, and he would stop to rest the horses and pick up a stick and start just cutting on it.
What began as a hobby has since turned into something much larger. Hard work has helped Berry make a name for himself as an artist and a teacher. Perhaps the most amazing thing about his career is that all his carvings are created with a pocket knife.
It came natural for me to work like that, to do this. It's a gift, and I've always pursued it and practiced it, and this is what it's turning into now.
Berry moved to Mississippi from Oklahoma in 1972 to be an industrial arts instructor at the Pineywood School. Life in Mississippi has been good as he has achieved numerous awards and recognition for his work. In 1984, he was chosen to demonstrate wood carving in the Mississippi exhibit at the World's Fair. He has been featured in magazines such as Southern Living and the book Craft in America by Phyllis George. He also had one of his pieces featured on the cover of the 1993 South Central Bell telephone book, and the list goes on. The thing that sets Berry apart from other wood carvers is the fact that he doesn't use expensive machines for his work. He uses his hands. This is a distinction that he stresses.
I want him to know that I do it all by hand. I do it the old-fashioned way. That's done by the machine, that's there, and this is mine. And to me, the difference in doing that is, let me put it this way. If I go out here and dig a hole with a shovel, and you go out here and take a bulldozer, there's a lot of difference between that and this thing.
Wood carving is rarely taught in school classrooms, and Berry feels it is becoming a lost art. To share his love of carving with others, he often does demonstrations in schools, museums, and festivals. As a charter member of the Craftsmen's Guild of Mississippi, he also teaches year-round carving classes at the Chimneyville Crafts Gallery. Many of his students describe the experience as an escape.
Taking his class is just so relaxing. It's almost peaceful after a long day's work. You come in here and he's such an easy teacher and funny and easy to get along with that it's almost therapeutic.
I think people are starting to recognize that this is not just a wood carver. There's lots of wood carvers out there, but he's really a unique wood carver. I mean, he has this ease about him that makes him look like he could do it with his eyes closed and still come out with a wonderful piece.
Establishing a connection with people is what Berry strives for in his work. He wants them to see how good carving is for the soul.
This makes me care about myself, and I'm hoping that this will rub off on other people, that no matter whether they are carving, drawing, or whatever it is, that they will feel good about it themselves, good enough to care about themselves.
George Berry says he realizes that God has given him a special talent, and he doesn't take it for granted.
If I don't do the things that he gave me to do and the things that he blessed me to do, then I'm going to eventually lose it. So I made the decision to do what he gave me to do, and I feel, and he blessed me, Sam.
More and more of Berry's time is spent going out and studying the animals he carves, paying close attention to their fine lines and intricate details, all in the pursuit of that perfect wood carving. He still participates in many arts and craft festivals across the state, so if you get a chance, stop in. You might get to meet a true Southern craftsman and gentleman. From Richland, I'm Brian Utley reporting.
Artist, you were fortunate to be able to go along.
I was fortunate enough to go along and do some of the photography on Brian's story there, and a very good job on that story, Brian. But Mr. Berry, just when he, like I said, when he carves, he can talk to you. He can just keep going.
Makes it look so easy.
And just, but he is.
Great story, the pleasures of days gone by. Well, next week, you know it, we all know it, newspapers are dying, especially in rural communities.
It's not a new thing, the demise of newspapers. The U.S. has lost a third of them over the last 20 years. It's becoming a news desert out there. But a Kansas publishing company is asking its rural communities to look inward and support the paper.
Can rural journalism survive? That and more next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.